Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I want to delve a little bit deeper into the topic of bonsai styles. As you probably know, bonsais can come in many different shapes and forms and sizes, and that's what I want to explore a bit today. So I would say let's dive right in and start with the first style. So the first style I want to talk about is the formal upright style. So that style basically is characterized by its look, of course, like all styles are. Its look is basically you have the upright trunk and then you have the branches spread out to the side of the trunk, of course, and they decrease in size the more you move upwards to the trunk. This is probably the most classical look that you can find when it comes to bonsai styles, and it really shows the symmetry that you can also often find in natural trees, for example, and this very nice balance that it gives is really basically the main characteristic of this style. So the balance between the branches that then move onwards from this very separating formal upright trunk in the middle gives off the symmetry and balance that is very appealing to look at. This already brings me to the second style, which is not the formal upright style, but the informal upright style. So with this style, you don't have this completely upright trunk. You have more movement in the trunk. For example, here you can see this on this Portulacaria afra. You have movement in the trunk. The branches are not really all basically decreasing in size when you move towards the apex of the tree. You have simply a more natural looking tree that seems to have been shaped by the elements more than by the hand of somebody who created that tree. So you just give it a more natural look, which is the essence of the beauty of this style. The next style that also can often be found when we look at bonsai trees is the slanting style. This one again is more informal, I would say. Just picture a tree that's trying to lean against the wind, for example, slowly and elegantly moving its way upward. So it is more dramatic than many other styles, and it creates this very natural look because you can really picture how this tree had to grow in a certain way to simply fit into its surroundings. So it's a very also nice looking and dramatic tree. The next style I want to talk about is the cascading style, and this one also is, as most bonsai styles, inspired of course by nature. Picture a cliff with a tree growing over this cliff, so it's basically growing downwards, so the apex of the actual tree is lower than its root mass or the base of its trunk, because it simply is in nature growing on a cliff. Also difficult to achieve this look and to find a species that can endure growing in this way, because trees of course naturally tend to grow upwards. So you do need to keep in mind when creating a cascading style bonsai that it often goes against what the tree naturally would do, and this can lead, for example, to problems when you grow this tree of loss of leaves and branches that are growing downwards, because the tree simply does not deal well with getting the nutrients, for example, also in parts of this branches then, for example. So definitely do keep in mind to look at which specific species you might want to cascade, because many of them can do it in the short term, but in the long term, many of those trees will start to lose branches that are on the lower part of the tree. But nevertheless, of course, the view of and the look of this tree is very, very nice and very pleasing if you can achieve an old, natural looking cascading style bonsai. The next style is actually then the semi-cascade style. So here we don't have this completely dramatic look of the tree moving over the pot, basically, and growing downwards. It is also growing downwards, but not as severely as in the fully cascading style. And this first of all is easier to achieve also for you as somebody who wants to create a bonsai style like this. And it is often more easy to create also with additional species that allow to create a style like this that maybe wouldn't fare as well with a fully cascading style. So when you try to start with creating cascading bonsai, look first into the semi-cascade, because it is definitely a nice entry point while still giving you this dramatic look of a tree leaning over its pot that is so nice looking when we look at different bonsai styles. Let's come to, in my opinion, probably the most dramatic looking style, and that is the windswept style. So here again, imagine a tree growing in an area with extreme winds, the tree being formed basically by the elements, and in this case by the wind that is constantly moving the tree in one direction and moving the foliage and the branches in one direction, away of course from where the wind is blowing. When you see a bonsai like this, you can see right away the story that is intended behind this tree. And I think this is something we should always keep in mind. Like, what story do we want to tell with the bonsai that we create? And with Windswept Styles, this is very clear and very visible, and it gives really a strong image on how this tree has evolved and what it had to endure and the way the elements have formed it. So definitely, in my opinion, one actually of my favorite styles, because it's just so powerful the way it depicts the influence of the elements on the trees. Another style that goes more into an artistic expression, I would say, is the Literati style. Here again, we can find some roots, no pun intended, in nature of a tree that grows in an area that is quite crowded with other trees, so it has to grow quite long and quite tall to reach the source of light. And this is also then depicted in this Literati style bonsai. So you have often a tree that is slanting its way upwards with no branches on the lower parts of the tree, and then some branches at the top, which basically then hold the entire foliage on this tree. So it's bare all the way to the top basically, and then has foliage on the top part of the tree, which again is reminiscent of, as I said, a tree in an area where it simply has to fight for reaching a light source and this way being able to survive. Coming back to maybe a more structured aesthetic that you can also achieve with bonsai style, and that is the broom style, which I have a very beginner tree here, which I will try to train in a broom style. It basically, as the name already says, it looks like a broom. So you have an upright trunk and then foliage that is basically moving in all directions, basically similar to how a broom looks. Again, more of a structured look. You do find those trees also in nature, definitely. It depends on the species, of course. And there are quite nice looking trees and bonsai species that can look very nice in a broom style. As you can see here, I tried with a ficus, for example. Small foliage always looks quite nice on broom styles. Podocarpus, for example, also looks quite nice as a broom style. Definitely also give it a try. It is always a nice addition and a good way for a beginner also to just get into the field of styling your bonsai in different stylistic forms. One more style we have is the group or forest style. And here, as the name already says, we do not only have one tree in our bonsai pot, but we have multiple trees. So we do create this narrative of a forest, as the name already says, or just a group that is placed together in one pot, giving just the idea of, well, basically, when you look at nature, just a forest you're walking through. So this is very much also linked then to Penjing, so the Chinese form of creating trees in pots, which often then include certain landscaping elements, stones, water features, little figurines, for example, fences. So you really build your own little landscape in the pot. Goes further than just having a single tree in your pot, but really you're creating a landscape, a forest, a group that you want to display in this pot that you then create. So as you can see, there is a multitude of different styles when it comes to bonsai. Of course, there are mixed forms, very narrow forms, and there is more free forms and more modern forms that are evolving and changing from day to day. So the important message that I want to give you simply is give it a try, get your hands on your trees, try to achieve different styles. Simply go with what you find beautiful on your tree and simply try to achieve something that gives you joy when you work on it, and also then when you later look at your tree and what you have achieved when it comes to the style. So I hope this video gave you a good overview on the different styles of bonsai trees and in all forms, shapes and sizes that they come. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.